Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Nic Cage Fight podcast, where we do a deep dive and review every movie in Nic Cage's filmography. And every once in a while, we get a heartwarming story about a family. And this is one of those times. I'm one of your hosts, Josh, joined as always by Rich and Ryan. We're here today to talk about Mom and Dad. Rich and Ryan, how do you feel about talking about this movie?
I'm trying desperately not to kill my kids.
I'm trying to get over some unresolved childhood trauma.
Me, it was like watching home movies. It made me very nostalgic. So, Mom and Dad is a 2017 film. It was rated R and clocks in at a real smooth hour and 26 minutes. It blew by for me. I actually enjoyed the shit out of this film.
Yeah, when I checked to see how much was left of this, it was like 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was just over. And I was sad that there wasn't more of it.
Yeah, I definitely would have liked another 10 minutes as to like what's going to happen.
I think they ended it at the correct point. The person I was watching this with really didn't like how there was no resolution, but I think that's actually one of the movie's strengths.
I agree entirely.
I do as well, because I went to the gym after watching this, I think the first time, and was kind of like contemplating it and was like, well, in the end, the kids have to win because the parents aren't killing other people's kids. So the kids can just band together and just pick off parents one by one.
Yeah, it's going to be an army of orphans. Plus, all those parents got jacked up knees. Everybody over 30 has fucked up knees. You just got to get them in the knees.
You know, also, I honestly, I think it's funny because I've been thinking about it since I watched it and did my notes for it as to what the overarching message or moral of the story was. And I'm still of several minds about it personally. I think there's some really obvious themes there, but I also think it was just a fun fucking concept that they ran with and enjoyed. And sometimes that's fucking enough. I want to say when I read the initial like description of the film itself, I'm trying to find it real quick. Oh yeah, it says a 24-hour period during which mass hysteria of unknown origin causes this. But you're right, spoiler alert, we never see the conclusion of it. So there's no indication in the actual body of the film itself that this ever stops. But we'll get into the theories and the concepts and what it might be and what it's tied to, because there's a ton of that shit in the movie, and it sort of just leaves it up to you to fucking figure out. And I like that.
Yeah, same. I like nebulous endings to movies where I'm thinking about it more than the filmmakers might have themselves.
So it's a little tough, right? Because there are certain movies. We know Rich isn't a fan of horror movies, but I am a big fan of horror movies.
And you know I am too.
Correct.
Right, which is why I'll probably be chiming in here and there, but I'm definitely going to let you two kind of take the reins on this one.
But one of the big criticisms I have of certain horror movies is when they don't do that right. Telling a story that doesn't give you, the cathartic narrative loop on a platter. If you do it right, I will enjoy the movie immensely. If you do it wrong, I will hate that movie and trash talk it to anybody who will listen to me.
Yeah.
This is one of those ones where I did not get the hatred element from it. And I think a lot of it was how they approached it with a very good sense of humor. That helps a lot.
Yeah, if it wasn't funny, I don't think it would have played.
Yeah, but it did also, I think it did take the world building seriously and included enough stuff for you to sort of put some stuff together. That doesn't work, toss it out of your head, put some more stuff together. It's fun. It becomes fun puzzling it out a little bit and not having anybody ruin your fun, which I think this movie was mostly about. Don't let other people ruin your fun.
Yeah.
Now, let me tell you about how parents trying to kill their kids is about not letting other people ruin your fun.
Sometimes you just want to build a pool table, even though you don't like pool that much.
Yeah, first stop on the way there, though, is housekeeping, as always. So let's start off with the director, who is Brian Taylor. Brian Taylor has a very specific CV, but he has directed films such as Crank High Voltage,
I love that one so much. I love when he turns into a kaiju to fight a man, and he's just like wearing a big rubber suit of his own face and knocking around a big cardboard city. It's so good.
Yeah, everything he writes is just like absolutely bonkers. Because even like Jonah Hex was out there.
Yeah, well, I mean, Jonah Hex as a concept has always been out there. I love those comics, and that movie's not very good, but I do love it to death.
Same with Gamer. I liked Gamer. It's a bad movie,
Yes,
but I liked it.
Yeah,
he did do Gamer. He also did, this is actually his second appearance on the pod. He did Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance.
He didn't write it, though. He just directed it and was a camera operator.
But it makes me more angry that we got the Spirit of Vengeance that we got instead of what could have been. Because
if they let him write this, oh my God.
Yeah, it was clear. If he was allowed to write and direct it, that would have been not just a good Ghost Rider movie. That would have been near the top of our list, I think.
Absolutely. So we got both writer and director. I got to shout out the cinematographer, just because I just stumbled on the fact that he was the cinematographer for Will Smith's Getting Jiggy with It music video. This man's name is Daniel Pearl, and he's mostly done music videos.
That's kind of cool, and actually tracks with some of the cinematography in this.
Let's see what else this man's like. He did Janet Jackson's I Want You. He did some Cypress Hill videos.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Nice.
Ricky Martin's She Bangs.
He did the
and She Moves, man.
Chainsaw Massacre.
Wait, what was that?
He did the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
No, that's
the 1974 one.
What, 74 you say?
Yeah.
Shit. I did not reach that far down into his filmography, and now I need to know. My God, he did. What the fuck? He also was the cinematographer for one of the remakes, which is what I noticed towards the top. That's wacky.
Well, yeah, damn. No, when I look at things, I always look at things from oldest to newest.
Oh shit, he did the Police Every Breath You Take music video. That's a classic. Dancing with Myself by Billy Idol. Jesus Christ.
Bangers. All this man does is bangers.
Oh my God.
Career.
Fucking Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Relax.
Jesus.
Cool.
He did also direct
but
9
now
episodes.
But now you have to murder the Prime Minister of Malaysia.
He did also direct 9 episodes of Happy, which is a specific call out because there's a lot of cameos, if you want to call them that, from that particular project here.
Well, Happy is like a couple of years after this.
Yeah, or rather they're cameos in Happy from this.
From this, yeah.
Either way, this is one of the drawing from the same well things, which is a theme, but I've never really noticed this in this amount of detail before we started doing the podcast. But, you know, directors have the people that they like to work with. So Brian Taylor is also the writer of this film, and he wrote Crank, High Voltage, Gamer, Jonah Hex, 18 episodes of Happy as well. So easy wrap up on writer and directors. I like those.
Yeah.
So for the cast, we got a small cast list today for housekeeping. We have the man of the hour every hour, Nic Cage as Brent, Selma Blair as Kendall. Selma Blair, known for her roles in Cruel Intentions. She was in the Ron Perlman Hellboy movie. She was also in Legally Blonde. Got to call out Legally Blonde.
And I got to call out something for her because I loved this show as a little kid. She was in one episode of The Adventures of Pete and Pete.
Oh, shit.
Pete and Pete
is an all-timer. Fucking Iggy Pop as the curmudgeonly neighbor that hates canoes is a bit that I will never get over.
The number, Ryan, one of these days, you and I have to get drunk and talk about all of the cameos by like major musicians in Pete and Pete, because that list is as long as my
it is.
No, I can do that too. I love The Adventures of Pete and Pete. I can get in on that.
I saw the band that does the theme song live, Polaris. They put on a good show.
Hell yeah.
I saw Little Pete's band in Brooklyn in like 2017. They're not bad.
They're not bad? That's good to know.
Yeah.
Sick.
And I will also shout out, she's in Can't Hardly Wait, which is like my favorite romantic comedy of the 90s.
There you go.
Because just fucking everybody is in that movie.
Hell yeah,
that movie's so good.
She's also in the remake of The Fog, and that movie is not that good.
Wait, what was that?
The remake of John Carpenter's The Fog. She was in that. It's not very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Ah,
Well, they can't all be winners.
Correct.
So next up, I have Ann Winters as Carly. She was in 13 Reasons Why, The Orville, which was what's his name? Family Guy dude's
Seth MacFarlane.
Seth MacFarlane. His like sci-fi live action sitcom thing. She was in Night School and Fatal Instinct. Next up, I have Zachary Arthur as Josh. He was in the Chucky TV series, a film called The Fifth Wave, and another TV series that I actually really liked called Kidding. That was, I can't remember what premium channel it was on, but it was with Jim Carrey.
Oh,
it was
weird.
on Showtime.
Showtime. Yeah, it was like a dark take on Mr. Rogers, basically.
Okay. So like a Wonder Shows and a
like soup, like it's a guy who legitimately had the same
Oh
sort
no,
of
I have seen some clips from this. I know exactly what you're talking about now.
yeah, like super disillusioned, has a fucking existential crisis in the middle
Yeah.
of being like the biggest, children's show star.
Right, he just looks depressed the entire time.
Yeah, it was a really good show.
Is it like a long form, like Death to Smoochie almost?
Sort of, but with like
Okay.
a little less slapstick. It got a little bit more serious with the themes and tones. Whereas, by the way, I fucking love Death to Smoochie. I love
And
that
it should
film.
be.
My favorite part of Death to Smoochie is when he almost line for line and movement for movement reenacts the part in American History X where he curb stomps the guy. And instead of saying you fucked with the wrong bull, he says you fucked with the wrong rhino.
Yeah, no, that
It's
movie,
so good.
I enjoyed the shit out of that movie. I think that's highly underrated. Criminally, some would say underrated. But yeah, that's a good flick. And a great comparison for Kidding, because I do think that they cribbed a lot of ideas from it for that show.
Gotcha.
So next up, we have Joseph D. Reitman as the homeroom teacher. He actually has a relatively long CV. I pulled out some of my favorites from it. He was the primary antagonist. Well, he was an antagonist in the first season of Happy. He was in The Perfect Storm. He was in Lady in the Water. He was in Crank High Voltage. He was in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. We're from New Jersey. We're going to call out Kevin Smith movies when they show up.
Yeah, we're going to have to. He was in Clueless.
He was in Clueless. He was also in Clueless.
And apparently American Pie too.
There you go. I missed that one. But yeah, we're contractually obligated to call out Kevin Smith works. I have a signed copy of Clerks 1 from him.
Of course you do.
Of course.
I have some signed Batman comics that he wrote. Because you gotta.
It's kind of like having a jersey pass. That's how you know. It's like, where's your signed Kevin Smith shit? So it's right here. All right, you can come into Jersey.
He was also apparently in a movie called Coronavirus Conspiracy, but I think it was like a farcical movie because he played an economist in it.
Okay. If it wasn't, I'm sure he was just cashing a check for that one. Because it seems like he's a work for hire kind of guy.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Edwin Lee Gibson as Mr. Hall, who is in Marshall, the Fargo TV series, Rounding, and the Bear TV series. Next on my list, we'll get him out of the way before somebody who was an honorable mention before my fellow hosts helped correct me on it. But we have Mehmet Oz as Dr. Mehmet Oz.
You know him from being a dickhead.
Yeah. My notes literally say, you'll know him from being the massive dipshit who also lost to John Fetterman.
Didn't last podcast we talk about John?
Oh
Fetterman?
Yeah, we did for a really long time.
Oh yeah, because we have to do the rankings as to who would win a congressional battle royal.
I mean, if it's only current congressman, it's John Fetterman. If it's entire congressional history, it is 100% going to be Abe Lincoln.
Didn't we kind of land that like Andrew Jackson like could eke that out because he's a
only
madman?
If they let him have his parrot.
Well, again, remember Andrew Jackson beat a would-be assassin almost to death with his cane. The institution that became the Secret Service protected an assassin from being murdered by the then president.
So cool.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna lie. I've treaded all the ground. I'm willing to go over with the cereal mascot Royal Rumble discussion, but the Congressional Royal Rumble through history is something that's starting to pique my interest.
No,
So
no,
I'm gonna have to
I
put
had
together fight cards.
I had a 2-hour long conversation with 4 people at work about the mascot Royal Rumble. And I had to convince them that Boo Berry would win, and they weren't getting it, and I called them idiots and left.
That sounds like every time I've had that discussion. I'm glad I infected you with the correct answer.
I'm like, you're so dumb. Get out of here.
And then last up on our list, but certainly not least, we have Lance Henriksen as Mel, who I'm going to name a couple of movies real quick.
And I'm going to name a lot of movies.
Is going to start screaming a way more movie titles at you. I've got Hard Target, Aliens, The Quick and the Dead, and the Super Mario Brothers. Take it away.
All right. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Damien, Omen 2, Savage Dawn, which is a totally kick-ass biker movie, House 3, the horror show, Near Dawn, Pumpkinhead. This man is a legend.
I was about to say Pumpkinhead is probably one of my favorite horror movies of all time. If you didn't say that, I was going to correct you.
The Terminator, come on, Network. This man's been in everything, and we love him. And I do have one more to shout out, since he shows up for about 5 seconds. Grant Morrison, unless you did that. Well, my internet crapped out for a minute there.
No, I did not call out Grant Morrison.
Right. Grant Morrison being a chaos magician and comic book writer. You may know him as the writer of Batman Incorporated, The Invisibles, Doom Patrol. Generally, did I say him? They. You may know them from those writing credits.
As well as Happy.
Well as Happy, yes.
Yep. So that is gonna wrap housekeeping, I think, in record time. Hold on, let me just check my watch real quick. Oh shit!
Oh no, we're right on the dot. Yeah,
it's time for an ad.
We almost got there. We almost started the movie beforehand.
There you go. Listen to these ads, idiots.
We're just kidding. You're not idiots. We love you.
No. I was talking to everybody else, not you. You are not an idiot. You are a savvy, informed consumer. That's right. I'm talking to you explicitly, listener.
But if you're in the car with other people, not them.
Not them. No.
And if you're mad at Oz, we're definitely calling you an idiot.
All right, let's get into the fucking plot, because
this movie starts on 100 and then goes down to 0, and then 40 minutes in gets right back to 100.
No, I honestly liked the intro, because I wouldn't even call it a slow burn. It was like a legitimate introduction if you're doing any sort of dramatic story with a family as a focal point, and then goes bonkers. But let's start.
One thing just before you start, the one thing I really enjoyed in this were the title cards.
The title cards were really well done.
I really enjoyed just the big bold in the beginning and the end. It was kind of old school. I really liked it.
Yeah, it was like pulpy, you know?
Yeah. It had like a little pop art going on with the color palettes. Yeah, it was very cool.
That, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to convey in this particular medium. Even if you just want to look up the opening credits, I recommend it. If you like that shit, they're done well. They do look very cool. However, the movie opens with a woman in like an SUV, and there's clearly not even like a kid's car seat. There's like a baby, like a toddler bassinet thing fastened in the back seat of the car, and she gets out of the parked car, and then the next shot we see she has parked her car on the middle of train tracks with a train oncoming, and then the opening credits roll. So yeah, start as you mean to continue, as I say often, and this is the right start to this film.
Good on her for showing restraint, because most of the parents in this show zero restraint when trying to kill their kids.
Well, this one had a plan. She fucking executed perfectly. Calm, slowly walking away from the car. The train is coming. No chance for a bystander to jump in and do anything about it. Just
makes you think maybe she was thinking about this before the MacGuffin kicks in.
This was a mistake.
Very calculated.
Why does this fucking movie take place in Texas, where I can't fucking take care of this thing?
I thought it was Kentucky. Did it actually
don't.
name
I
drop
actually don't
Texas?
know.
Yeah,
No,
because
I was just. I named just pulled a state out of a hat.
okay, because I read the credits and it thanked the Kentucky Film Board, which made me think it was either shot in Kentucky or set in Kentucky.
I
I
think
think it was shot.
at least one of these school shots was a school in Kentucky, which might have been the thanks. Maybe both of them were, but I'm not.
Principal photography took place in Louisville, Kentucky.
There you go.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, the student teacher scene was St. Xavier High School. So shout out. There you go. And so was the standardized testing scene. So both of the school scenes were in Kentucky. So then we start getting introduced to our primary family. I don't think we ever catch their last names.
We definitely do because the housekeeper calls them by it. I do not recall what it is though.
Yeah, and in the credits it doesn't say. It's just Brent, Kendall, Carly.
I think it might be
Joshua.
Rose.
I'm not sure that the housekeeper actually uses their last name because the housekeeper was portrayed a little stereotypically as like an ESL individual. So I think she calls him Mr. Brent.
I could have swore that she said Mr. Rose at some point, but I could be mistaken on that.
Maybe. I'm not sure. I can't find anything in my notes indicating a last name, and the crediting doesn't include a last name. So
okay.
But we do start with the teenage daughter. That's who we're introduced to first, and she is talking to her boyfriend Damon on the phone about his upcoming PSATs. Then we have the introduction to her younger brother Josh, who is introduced exactly like younger brothers are always introduced in films, as being annoying and relaying a message from the parents, like get up out of bed, you got to get going type thing. So Kendall, the mom, is drinking coffee while Brent, the father, is eating eggs, and their housekeeper slash nanny. I refer to her as nanny in my notes, but I know they specifically refer to her as a housekeeper in later scenes. And on there's a TV playing a news story about the lady who left her baby in the car while it was on the train tracks. So Brent starts giving Carly a hard time about who she's dating. And this is kind of funny because Carly strongly implies that Brent is racist in this because her boyfriend is black. And Brent vehemently denies it as being because he is a junior and she is a sophomore, which doesn't really track. That's just a single grade difference there. So Brent might be a racist. So, and then actually, I'm sorry, I really like this scene because the implied racism bit, which was hilarious on the Brent side, but Kendall follows up by doing the same exact thing because they're talking about Brent's parents coming over for dinner that evening, and Carly says something about grandpa always like ranting about fighting Charlie in Vietnam. And Kendall's like, don't say that. And then apologizes to the nanny. And the nanny's like, I'm fucking Chinese.
Yeah. Charlie's Vietnam.
That one got me pretty good. I'm not going to lie.
It's fucking great.
So Carly's told she can't go to the movies because the grandparents are coming over that evening and it's relatively contentious. Angsty teenagers. But so far, the dynamic is relatively normal. One of my favorite bits is again, it might be playing into the Brent might be racist thing, but there's a scene where he's getting ready for work and the housekeeper's like, I'll put, dinner in the refrigerator for you. And he's like, fuck you. Thank you very much. I don't understand where that outburst came from, but it was a great bit of acting from Nic Cage. That one cracked me up too. So Kendall drives Carly to school and tries to have a bit of a heart-to-heart about how, with Carly becoming a teenager and sort of shutting Kendall out of her life, and this isn't really breaking new grounds in family relations here. It's relatively stereotypical, and
Carly's, it's screenwriting 101.
Yeah, 100%. And Carly's just like, whatever. And Kendall points out that she hates that response, and you're like, okay, typical relationship issues with a teenage kid. And then back at home, Brent hasn't left for work yet, and he sneaks up and does a tickle attack on Josh, but the music is 100% sinister through these
Yeah,
scenes.
it was very murdery. Again, very stressed out during this whole first part because I'm like, I know the murders are going to start. When do they
when's the
start?
turn? When's the turn?
And I'll give Brian Teller that he plays with that a lot. Like he turns things that are sinister, not sinister, things that are not sinister, sinister. He's really good at misdirection.
It reminded me of the first 20 minutes of Shaun of the Dead in that way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It like, except for it wasn't ending in explicit punchlines, but yeah, it kept
Right,
having those like set up and then, something really benign. But didn't do it in the same way that like jump scare movies like Rich hates, where they keep setting up for jump scares and then not following through on them until they hit you with one. And then I get annoyed because you're just doing mental conditioning on me. That's not
It's
necessarily
just
good writing.
spooky edging.
Yeah, no, there's really only one jump scare in this movie.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Everything else is just a general sense of dread.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, like so that gets a pass from me, that there's only one jump scare, and the rest is just utterly violent, but we'll get to that when we get to that.
Yeah. So Brent goes to get in his car to go to work, and we get a flashback. And I have to call out this flashback specifically because Brian Taylor reuses this exact scene.
He does. In a completely different thing altogether.
Yeah. So as Brent's going to get in his car for his white collar job, he has a flashback to him as a teenager in a convertible doing donuts in a parking lot while a girl sits on his lap, a woman sits on his lap with her titties out in his face. And that is also a flashback for Chris Maloney's character in Happy.
I was going to guess it was Happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would have guessed right.
Look,
that was what, the War on Easter special they did?
I can't remember exactly where it was, but I just remember they did the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not even faulting him for it. Like every time I use a famous person's quote in a paper, it was like, hey, look, if somebody nailed it the first time, why would I just
Absolutely.
Why wouldn't I just do that instead of trying to do a poor facsimile of it?
Makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
It's like a visual leitmotif for him.
Yeah, exactly. The guy has a style.
Yeah.
You haven't caught on yet. So then we cut to Carly's school, and we get the homeroom teacher, who I really liked as a character. He's in there very briefly. He's listed as homeroom teacher, but he's actually teaching something, so I don't fucking know what topic he's supposed to be covering, and it really doesn't make sense. But
I was guessing economics.
Yeah, that would make sense for the planned obsolescence speech that he gives.
Yeah, except for the fact that I think that was more to lean into the overall themes of the film than any conscious decision to give him like a subject that he is teaching. Because they clearly didn't get that far when they put together the credits for the character. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the homeroom teacher is one of those cool teachers. He's got long hair. He's got it tied back. I think he has an earring or two, but he catches one of the young ladies in the class listening to music with earbuds and confiscates her cell phone. And then Carly is either texting the phone or he texts Carly from the girl's phone. I think they were in the middle of a conversation. So he catches her using her cell phone as well in class and confiscates hers too. And I thought this was going to be like a big lead up as to, oh, that's why one of the protagonists doesn't have their cell phone, which you normally have to account for in horror films nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't.
It does explain why she didn't just call the house to talk to Josh.
To an extent.
Yeah.
But again, she might not have done that anyway, just because of his general age. What's she gonna do? Tell him to run off and then she can't find him?
Yeah.
So I thought it was gonna play a bigger part than it did, but it didn't. So the cell phones are confiscated, and then we jump back to home where Josh is sort of just running around the house playing. I'm assuming this is supposed to mean he's like not even in kindergarten yet.
Yeah, because he's supposed to be 9 years old. There's a specific line where Nic Cage says, "You won't make it to 10."
Yeah, that's right. Why the fuck is he home?
It's never established. I don't know. Well, since older kids are taking the PSATs, that implies to me it might be later in the year and maybe they let the grade school out earlier.
Maybe.
That's
I
my
don't know. It's
guess.
been a
maybe.
long fucking time since any of that has meant anything to me. So yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I'm just worried about how much food costs at this point.
Yeah.
I don't care
It's
about the
fucking
PSATs.
expensive.
Life is expensive. This sucks.
I agree. But listen, we are helping escapism right now. This is escapism into the world of mom and dad where things are fine and 9-year-olds are just home while other kids are in school. Okay. don't don't break the suspension of disbelief for our listeners.
No, I will not.
So we're treated to a flashback with Josh now, which is a weird one, but I did enjoy it, especially to the follow-up flashbacks that flesh out what actually happened here. But it looks like he found a kitten that was injured in some way. And so he puts it in a shoebox and hid it in his dad's Firebird that's parked in the garage. Not
his midlife crisis mobile.
It's
sort
not,
of, but
though.
Not quite. It's not. But
It's
that's
very
the
explicitly
implication.
not. The fact that he held on to it might be his midlife crisis, but
Correct.
him having the car to begin with is not.
Correct.
So he hides the shoebox with the kitten in the car, and then he goes and like steals Fruit Loops from the kitchen at night and goes to feed it to the kitten, and it's dead. For sure dead. You know how you know it's dead? The fly sound.
Yes.
The sound of flies. Always very ominous. And then he gets caught by his dad. He's snapped out of this reminiscing by the sounds of the nanny's daughter or the housekeeper's daughter, who is there in the initial breakfast scene, screaming, and there's thudding sounds. Then we go check out what Kendall's doing, and this is a very quick scene, but she's doing some weird, sexy dance aerobics class with her friend.
I thought it was like a more intense jazzercise.
No, they were just adapting the horror workout with Linnea Quigley.
But it is a fun. It's very, very quick, but it is a funny scene because there's like a lecherous dude teaching the class, and Kendall's friend is really leaning into it. And Kendall actually just seems more amused than anything about this particular dynamic. So afterwards, they get like a smoothie or frappuccinos or some shit like that. And she's talking to her friend, whose name I don't recall off the top of my head, but her name's Jenna. But Jenna is like shit talking her family, basically shit talking their age in general. She's like, yeah, your husband's gonna leave you, nobody gives a shit, I want to fuck the jazzercise instructor.
Hate to tell you, girl, he's gay as shit.
Well, according to her, he's working his way through the dance class like a stomach bug.
Yeah, all the dudes, trust me, that was a gay man.
So from there, we cut back to the homeroom teacher talking about planned obsolescence. So let's take a minute here, because I think this is tying into larger themes of the film, which, again, to be fully honest, I haven't put together all the way. He's talking about cell phones, but the movie itself seems to have some things to say about the changing of the guard, the young replacing the old, so on and so forth, and turning it on its head with a little bit of a horror convention here. So I think his talk about planned obsolescence has more to do with the older people in this film than it does with cell phones, personally. Now, I can't draw a straight line from A to B there, but that's the sense that I get, because they dedicate not a lot of, but a fair amount for this scene while they're doing all of the build up to the actual events of the movie. That's my feeling. What do you guys think?
Well, I think the writers thought they were more clever than they were when they were writing this, because the metaphor does not track as evenly as I think they thought it might.
Oh, no, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't connect smoothly, but it's so intentional that I can't believe they're just like, what the fuck are we going to have them talk about?
It would make sense if it was the kids that went crazy and did the killing. It doesn't make sense to talk about planned obsolescence when it's the older models that are trying to get rid of the newer ones.
but you're fighting against planned obsolescence.
I guess.
So the changing of the guard in general, or ageism, or not being able to get a job with all these dipshits coming out of college, that's the planned obsolescence, and the old folks are on the receiving end of it. So how do you fight that if you're the phone that's about to get thrown out, you know?
Yeah, you fucking
you
fucking
get
kill 'em.
brainwashed by
Fucking
some
kill the
TV
new
static.
phones.
Well, speaking of
Something
planned obsolescence, here's some ads for some things that probably won't exist in 2 years.
Hey, there you go.
There we go. I can't wait for DraftKings Sportsbook to get replaced by like Barstool, to get replaced by like Amazon.com betting or something, because that's going to happen at some point, right? Amazon's just going to open up casinos.
It's just so convenient.
I can buy this toilet paper and lose my mortgage.
Yeah, there you go. So while the teacher is giving his speech on planned obsolescence, he gets 2 phone calls to the classroom instructing that kids be sent to the main office. 2 kids in a row, and his reaction lets us know that this is not usual. He seems annoyed and confused. Also, outside while this is happening, we see police cars start to arrive at the school. From there, we cut over to Damon, Carly's boyfriend, who's taking his PSATs. And outside the proctor room where the kids are taking the test, there's a crowd of parents just sort of standing at the doors staring in, to the point that the proctor even makes a comment about it. Back to the high school, Carly and her friend Riley are in a bathroom, and they're buying pills with money that Riley stole from her mom's purse. And they buy it from the school goth girl, which is hilarious.
Yeah. I can't stop thinking about the damn planned obsolescence speech. It just doesn't make any sense to me in terms of it. And I think that, all right, I'm going to do a little script doctoring here. So we do a rewind, we do the scene all over again, but you make it about a biology lesson about animal breeds that eat their own young.
Well, that doesn't Grant Morrison's character talk? No, it's fucking
fucking Oz.
God damn it. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
But again, there's a thread there. You can see the line of reasoning for this like background
it's
shit.
A connect the dot fucking puzzle that somebody forgot like where they were when they were filling it in.
Yeah, no, you fill it out and it's just a middle finger or just a coiled turd. But I don't care because it's fun.
Yeah.
So they buy pills from the goth student, and then the fire alarm goes off and the kids start rushing outside. And as they exit into the field, or the generic outdoor place that all the kids know to go when the fire alarm goes off for a drill, they see a mom with the perfect Karen haircut, like climbing a fence to get into the school, and the cops just fucking tackle her. Which is a great scene.
Yeah. Now this whole sequence is quite good.
This is where things really start to go off the rails all around our various characters in the film.
Well, did we talk about the point that like started this whole thing, the fucking static?
No. That doesn't quite come up yet.
Oh, okay. I thought it did at this point. My bad.
No.
Yeah, because I have something to say about that.
Yeah, we get introduced to that a little bit later. I know when I first noticed it, there might have been sound cues previous, but I know the first scene where we actually see it tied to an event, and it's definitely confirmed later. So
got it. Okay.
The kids filter outside to the front of the school. There's buses waiting, and parents are just stacked like 4 deep outside of the gates of this school. Also, by the way, I just want to point this out. The school has gates, and I feel like they thought about this afterwards. There's like, this is definitely a private school. All of the kids are in uniforms, and the school has a gate. So there's some barrier between the parents and kids at this scene.
And like some of the parents are like trying to like get their kids closer. Like, come here. Like what it reminded me of. Have any of y'all been to Disney World?
Yeah, but not for like 20
when
years.
I was a child.
Yeah.
But
do you have any memories of like Pirates of the Caribbean? There's like this one scene as you're going through it of like 8 pirates trying to like get a dog to come with keys to unlock their gate.
Yeah,
Yeah,
actually,
That's
I
what it
do
looked
remember
like
that.
to me.
So before we continue the scene at the school, we cut back to the PSATs. Damon finishes early, seems like a smart kid. He walks out and sort of has to shoulder his way through like the crowd of dead-eyed parents just waiting, and they all ignore him. And he takes his bike and leaves. Then we cut back to Carly's school, and the parents are yelling at the cops who are waiting outside the barrier, trying to keep them away. They're trying to call the kids over to the gate, like Rich said. The homeroom teacher is trying to keep kids back. He senses that something is amiss. And he does a pretty admirable job. He's like, no fucking way. Are you kidding me? Do you see these people? This seems insane. I'm not handing kids over to these folks. Unfortunately, one kid succumbs to his mother's beckoning, rushes past the teachers, climbs the gate, and as soon as he gets over the top of the gate, I thought the scene was filmed very interestingly because they don't really shy away from the violence in it.
Mhm.
But this first scene, with the exception of the train track opening, which also cuts away from the violence, all we see is a woman's hand descend with a key and then come back bloodied. And that's all the information we're given about what happened to this kid who made it over the
Yeah.
gate. And I thought that was a great introduction to where they just fucking let this thing off the leash personally,
Yeah.
because it gets graphic from here on
Yeah,
out.
again, there is a kill in this that haunts me still.
Yeah, so that is the starting bell. The match has begun. The
Round
parents
one, fight.
Yeah, the parents start rushing the cops, climbing over the gates and just rushing the kids. And the kids fucking scatter. Good on them. I will give them this. These kids reacted with a speed that I am impressed by, because they just all bolt. But we also, because of this, are graced with the scene that bothers Rich a whole lot, which I do understand, but also it's a badass scene. So
It is a good kill, but Jesus Christ.
So the kids are just sprinting and they hit the fucking athletic fields, right? So it's a football field, which is the perfect setting for this. So one of the dads is just running and he pulls a trash bag out of a trash can as he's running, and he just comes up behind one of these high school girls and just dunks the bag over her face and wrestles her to the ground. Wild. The scene is insanely chaotic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just parents chasing down kids trying to kill them. There's kids hitting other people's parents with backpacks and shit, trying to defend each other. And then there's one scene that we focus in on for a longer period of time.
Is it the cop beating down on that one
cop is
lady?
just beating the shit out of this lady. He's like, you should have stayed down. They show him whale her in the face like 5 times.
Yeah, his hand starts out not bloody, but it's like bloody by the time the cut happens.
It's wild. At this point, I was staring with rapt attention at this film. It just took off, dude. So now we get to the scene that we briefly touched on earlier, alluded to. Damon gets home. There's like he says some greeting to his neighbor, who's an older woman who's sitting on the porch, and he's like, oh, is Sylvia home? And she's like, she's in there, but vague, sinister, right?
Yep.
So he gets into the house, and it looks like Damon's dad is a single dad, and B, a drunk, because he's passed out with a beer can in his hand. So Damon cleans up the house a bit, takes out the trash, and then when he comes back inside, his dad is missing from his couch or chair, but comes out of the back room and backhands him. Damon's been here before. He's like, not again. It's me. I'm your kid. You're shit-faced. Let's knock it off. But Damon's dad picks up an empty liquor bottle and bashes it against the table to make a little jabby implement.
Yeah, right? A Green Street hooligan knife.
There you go.
A little sharp.
Yeah. And then he slashes Damon's arm with it. So, Damon at this point realizes this is not a game or a normal drunken beating. And he rushes to get away from his dad, who then trips and stabs himself in the neck with the broken bottle.
Love to see it.
And then like Damon is trying to save his dad's life, and his dad is just weakly still flailing at him with the broken bottle knife. Wild stuff. But this is the first scene where when between Damon getting in, cleaning up the house, leaving, and coming back in, the TV set has switched to static. So,
which is peculiar because static kind of has been phased out of most people's lives with TV because everybody's got a cable plan and you can't actually tune to a dead channel anymore for the most part.
You can on old model TVs.
You can on old model TVs. That is like the main difference. But this is recent enough that I think that might be a break in my suspension of disbelief personally.
I don't remember the scene well enough. If it was a tube TV, you
it was not.
absolutely
It's all flat screens all the way down.
Yeah, and to me, it didn't break my suspension of disbelief, but it did leave me with questions, as to like, was this a larger plan? It's just random shit like that. It doesn't matter.
Is it a broadcast from space? I don't know. Is this secretly a sci-fi film?
Right. And but at the end of the day, like any of these thoughts, dear listener, it doesn't matter.
Don't let other people ruin your fun.
Yep.
Yes.
Moral of the story and this podcast.
Yeah, correct. So at this point in the film, though, the static is incidental. There's nothing that we can really get from this. But also, now that we're talking about the fact that like you can't tune to dead channels and shit, the scene that cements this as one of the signs or potentially the cause of it, it doesn't have to do with regular static. And we'll get there when we get there. So Kendall is leaving her jazzercise and post jazzercise smoothie with her friend Jenna. And Jenna, when she was complaining about her family and her kids and husband and all that shit, actually got it into Kendall's head that Carly might have stolen cash from her. Kendall actually, when they were drinking their coffee or smoothies, noticed that she was like, I thought I pulled out like $100 in cash and I don't have that much cash on me anymore. So she's thinking about Carly acting weird. And then we also get a flashback from her where it looks like she's trying to get back into an old career of hers, probably after her kids got a little bit older, with a boss who's a little bit touchy-feely. So I want to shout this scene out just as a not necessarily integral to the story. It is some background for Kendall specifically, but none of the potential threads here flesh out. It's just a lot of information shown, not told, in very quick sequence. It's just giving proper respect and attention to a scene like this. So I'm not really upset about the lack of payoff there, right?
Yeah, right. I think the screenwriter realized that they were giving Cage's character a bit too much meat on for him to chew on in terms of the scenery, and Kendall not so much. So they kind of may have shoehorned that in, and that's why it doesn't really pan out.
Except it's funny. I found Kendall to be a more realistic character. Brent is just psychotic.
Yeah.
Which I love, but Kendall's just a way more real character as far as
Brent's just a domesticized punk.
Yeah, this is very true. So it looks like she might be trying to play on maybe some past affection from this dude. But at the end of their conversation, he's like, yeah, I can't fucking hire you. Are you kidding me? You don't even know any of the stuff. I don't know if she was like a graphic designer or something like that.
I got real estate agent vibes from The Office, personally.
He specifically mentions her like taking a class on like an application. So I thought it was maybe a graphic design thing. Because that shit does move kind of quick.
Yeah.
But anyway, so
looking at how she has her house fucking decorated, it can't be graphic design.
Well, that's interior design. He was an interior decorator. Really? His apartment looked like shit. And there's the Sopranos reference for this episode.
There it is.
Gotta get it in.
So after she finishes remembering getting just completely turned down for this job, she cries in her car, which is sad. But then she gets a call from her sister, who it sounds like her sister's baby's coming. She does reference this, I think, in the breakfast scene, like, you guys are going to have a new cousin soon. like family is important. This is when Carly was bitching about not being able to go to the movies because the grandparents were coming over.
Yeah.
Which yeah, I don't know. I am far removed from my teenage years, but I do still identify with the why the fuck do I have to miss an opportunity to go out with my friends because family's coming over? I get it. I haven't quite hit the age gap where I'm like, those fucking kids. They don't care about what's important.
They
So-
don't. They don't care about laser discs or first run 35 millimeter fucking horror movie releases. Kids don't give a shit about the important stuff
They
in life.
don't know what's good.
They don't even
I'll
know the
get there,
difference
guys.
between
I'll get
VHS
there.
and Betamax.
So Carly and Riley have escaped the chaos at the school, and they have fled back to Riley's house. Carly goes in and puts on the news, and Riley sparks up a joint, man. Riley knows what she's about.
So cool.
So cool.
She is the coolest person in this movie. She has
She does
done.
also.
I think
by
the goth girl is the coolest person in this movie.
Yeah. By the way, I will give Riley this level of credit. I had not seen somebody light a joint or cigarette from the burner of a stove until I was already in my 20s. So kudos to her for doing that while she's in high school.
Cool. You didn't have an uncle living in your house then.
Clearly, I'm just saying it's a practiced hand that does that. If you watch somebody light their shit off the burner of a stove,
I lived in the same room as my uncle growing up for a couple of years because he was a scumbag and like couldn't keep his own house. My mom fucking hated him smoking in the house. So you'd see him do that and then run like fucking the roadrunner to the back door.
couldn't afford a fucking lighter, dude.
I guess.
Matches are free.
Who has the time, dude? Amazing. So like Carly is like just watching the news and it's showing a bunch of kids being killed by their parents. And I do love the fucking nameless or uncredited or credited too far down for me to have called out the fucking newscasters who are just like, we are sorry to report. We have numerous reports from around the globe of parents murdering their children. It's like that does sound like the lead into every fucking news story I've seen in the last 8 years.
I want to see if I can identify any of those dudes or dudettes.
They're well done. They're well done. Full credit to them. Oh, but we get another one of those tense moments where you expect almost like the setup for a jump scare, but it doesn't pay off. So Riley is in the kitchen after sparking up a J on the burner of the stove, and there is, of course, a blender on the countertop with what is clearly the dregs of a recently made margarita. And she reaches down into the blender to I guess do a Sherlock Holmes taste test to figure out what's going on, even though it's immediately obvious like her mom made a fucking margarita as soon as she got home from jazzercise class.
And the camera angle they chose too.
Oh
was
yeah, the
up
hand
through the
going
blender.
in right by the blades.
I can see in my mind's eye her hand being just turned into another margarita.
Yeah, you're ready for it. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. She checks it and she's like, Mom? Which, fair, man. I get that. So she goes upstairs to investigate. Carly is completely oblivious to all this, just watching the horror unfold on the TV screen. And she finds her mom sitting on the edge of her bed. And you know what? I think this is an appropriate place for our cliffhanger.
Oh, hey, I got a little bit of information. That TV anchor played by Shannon Cogan, if I'm looking at their IMDb correctly, all they've ever played is reporters, TV anchors, local newscaster, Kentucky newscaster, news reporter, female reporter, and journalist.
Well, they know what they're good at.
Hell yeah, man. Corner a market, dude.
Absolutely.
If you know what you're good at, fucking stick with it. Refine it. You know, you don't make fun of guys who only ever played gangsters in movies. You cannot denigrate the folks that are just playing reporters in films.
I can denigrate myself for not leading in with that with breaking news.
Yeah, there you should have.
I should have.
That's a missed opportunity, man. But yeah, let's pause there. Riley finding her mom upstairs in her house with Carly downstairs with the news on. I think this is an appropriate place We're set up for a bunch of insanity in episode 2. Highly recommend you check that out when it drops. In the meantime, of course, you can always find us on social media. We're at cagefight_pod on Twitter for now. Who knows how long that shithole is going to be around.
It's real bad out there in them Twitter streets right now.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
Except for all the Titanic memes. They're really getting me through.
God damn, what a fucking news story, man. We lucked out with that one.
Yeah, we did.
And all the people at my job are just like, oh, I hope they find those people. And I'm sitting there in my head like, I don't.
No, man, those are that's crab bait now.
Oh,
They're gonna
no,
get
they
eaten like
basically
fucking...
confirmed it. I don't know if you saw the most recent things. They found
the fucking orcas got them.
Yeah.
I've not seen an orca meme associated with that, but that is perfect.
Oh,
I've seen
nothing
numerous
but,
orca memes.
That's
I
fucking
saw
funny.
one on a Simpsons shit posting group where it was the head billionaire like explaining it's 250K, and then it's just Mr. Burns released the orcas.
I loved every bit of that story. It's like the fucking website is like, yeah, we don't believe in regulatory agencies.
It's
and
so much schadenfreude.
Yeah. The fucking news story where they're like, we've got one button in the sub, like an elevator. You know, you're going down. We don't believe it should be complicated. It's fucking, like, motherfucker.
The thing's controlled by like a Mad Cat's GameCube controller.
I made that same fucking joke earlier today. The whole thing is run on a Mad Cat's controller.
The kind you'd hand to your little cousin to make sure he doesn't beat your ass at Mario.
The one you don't even fucking plug in, you know?
It's
like, yeah, that's right, kid. You're playing Mario.
Nah, it should have been the fucking bongos from the Donkey Kong game.
Oh, those are the Tetsujin no Taijin fucking controllers. And then they used them for Donkey Kong.
I'm not gonna lie, if that sub was controlled by bongos, I'd be more torn up about this whole thing. Also, though, I did have an interesting conversation where people looked at me like I was like a fucking crazy person. When it first went missing before the debris thing happened, I was like, the kindest thing that could happen would be catastrophic pressure loss. And they're like, Jesus Christ, that's morbid. And I was like, no, morbid is getting stuck down there in a sub that is riveted shut from the outside and starving to death, or making some real difficult decisions, you know, a couple days in.
Well, I was actually
saying it's gonna be cannibalism.
There were multiple people being like, you don't need to eat anybody. It's like 6 days. Therefore, I'm just like, yeah, but these are billionaires. They're used to having like 4 full meals a day.
I guarantee you.
And also not hearing the word no when they're hungry.
I guarantee you, before that thing crumpled like a beer can against my forehead when I finished crushing it, that one of those dudes had at least a bite taken out of their hand.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Guaranteed.
If we ever find the remains, there is going to be a bite mark out of one. Absolutely.
Yeah, some meat stuck in somebody's teeth for sure, dude.
Listen, this is a good thing because it reestablishes our fear of the ocean
like
that
a
is
Bible
needed.
Story in there.
The only element of justice present in this story specifically is that the CEO of the company with the sub was on the sub at the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Also, when I first heard the story, they were like, yeah, it's a tourist activity. And then I was like, it is not a fucking tourist activity. It costs $250,000. That you do not describe as a tourist activity.
Yeah, that's like
that implies that you or I could do that.
Going into space.
I was
like,
gonna say, is that
activity.
more expensive than the fucking the recreational space travel that they've done? That's basically just, we're gonna do a big old fucking
a big old fucking triple jump.
A big old triple jump, yeah.
Yeah.
And you're gonna feel like you're in space for maybe 10 minutes.
Oh, I do have to shout out, and I apologize to the Twitter user who posted this. I don't recall your handle off the top of my head, but the best thing I heard about this was the Titan sub is the equivalent of the Schlitterbahn water park slide that decapitated that kid that one time. And it is. If you are not familiar with that story,
oh, I am.
Yep.
A bunch of dipshits who didn't finish high school math made a fucking water slide that ended up decapitating a state
Park,
senator's kid.
I know this is a separate thing, but that's basically the story of Action Park too.
Yeah.
Correct. Although Schlitterbahn takes the fucking gold visibility on that one. But
yeah, because all the fatalities in Action Park are just kind of boring comparatively.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
But this
that
is
one's
the
at least
maritime
interesting.
equivalent of
Yeah.
Schlitterbahn. Okay,
It's so good. God bless the Titanic. Taken
I can't
like
wait. I can't wait for Cameron's next
Titanic 2, Electric
film
Boogaloo.
about this. It's just the widow of the CEO of the fucking.
Been
We might have to
84
cut some of
years.
this. I'm not sure if this is gonna age
I'll
appropriately.
make sure it's tasteful.
So I
As
think we're
tasteful
about
as it
to drop
can
the
be.
Patreon somewhere in there.
Patreon.com/Nic Cage fight. Give us money so we can go see the Titanic and maybe die. Probably
fuck
die.
yeah.
Definitely die.
Well, yeah, definitely now. The statistics have swung, people. All right, that'll do it. Please join us next time for the thrilling conclusion of Mom and Dad. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, listeners, we appreciate you.